Hello and welcome back to Haunted Montreal's Spooky Story Sessions. I'm your host, Holly Rhiannon, and today I'm going to tell you about the mysterious Trafalgar Tower. Here at Haunted Montreal, we bring you ghost stories in both English and French every Saturday. Before we get into today's story, please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button so you get notified every time we've got a new tale to share. And if you already subscribed, a big thank you and welcome back. We're so glad you're here. Now, without further ado, let's get spooky. For over a century, the mysterious Trafalgar Tower looked down on the city from a height. Perched on a steep slope, it was located in the valley between Mount Royal and the peak of Westmount. Gothic in style and hexagonal in shape, the little stone tower was commissioned by fur trader John Ogilvy, who had purchased a large swath of land in 1805, which he named the Trafalgar Farm. Not only was this area exceptionally beautiful, but the property also lay among the fields where General Amherst's troops had camped in 1760 before taking Montreal from the French. John Ogilvy, ever the British loyalist, appreciated the historic location. In fact, to celebrate the anniversary of the Battle of Trafalgar, where British Admiral Horatio Nelson won a decisive victory over the French, Ogilvy would fire a small cannon from the top of the Trafalgar Tower every October 21st in remembrance. The Trafalgar Tower was built by James Gillespie, John Ogilvy's protege. Gillespie was well suited for the job because he himself had been present at the Battle of Trafalgar and served on Nelson's flagship, the Victory. The chosen Gothic style, with pointed arches and a handsome design, blended in well with the leafy countryside. A common feature in the gardens of the wealthy, towers like this were described as follies for rich people and were used as summer houses to entertain guests and host enchanted gatherings. Romantic in character and shrouded in mystery, the Trafalgar Tower was intended to be an architectural showpiece, highlighting John Ogilvy's fervent British loyalty, financial success, and excellent taste. However, following Ogilvy's death in 1819, the tower slowly began to crumble and develop a creepy reputation. Rumors circulated that the Trafalgar Tower was haunted, especially because many visitors claimed to have heard phantom footsteps in the vicinity. It wasn't long before other disturbing stories emerged. A common legend referred to a strange old hermit who used to live in the forlorn tower and speculated that it was he who haunted it. In another story, the local tollgate keeper, an old man named Quinn, had the fright of his life one moonlit night. One of his cows had strayed away from the toll booth and wandered towards the Trafalgar Tower, prompting the owner to go and retrieve the animal in the beautiful moonlight. Quinn had heard about the hauntings from several people, but he thought it was a joke and had no fear. According to Quinn, he had just found his cow at the foot of the haunted summer house and saw with his own two eyes a beautiful form of a woman looking out of one of the windows. He was transfixed to the spot and could not take his eyes off of this vision. She was in white, with her hands clasped as if in prayer, looking upwards. He remembers falling down on his knees and crossing himself, and then remembers nothing more. One of the most deranged tales about the Trafalgar Tower suggested it was haunted by a pair of young lovers who had been murdered on the site by a jealous suitor. After being rejected by the young lady, the suitor was said to have hacked them apart with an axe. One anonymous young man recounted meeting the rejected suitor, whom he described as a fierce-looking man sharpening a blood-stained axe. The murderous suitor then poured out his fearful story and proceeded to show the terrified listener a locket he claimed had belonged to his fiancée. In 1836, the Trafalgar property was bought by one Albert Furness, who remodeled the crumbling tower. He also reserved a small piece of land for himself on Côte des Neiges Road and sold the rest of it in 1845 to Frederick B. Matthews, including the farm and cottage. Matthews was a businessman who recognized the need for a new Protestant cemetery, largely because the old Protestant burial ground was almost full. He felt that the Trafalgar site, nestled in a lush valley between two peaks, was ideal for its beauty and location. So in 1846, the Trafalgar Mount Cemetery Company was founded on 16 acres of John Ogilvy's old farm. It was overseen by a prominent board of directors including John Young, Luther Holton, William Workman, William Lyman, and Jacob DeWitt. John Ogilvy's old house, the Trafalgar Cottage, was occupied by Frederick B. Matthews, the cemetery's owner and superintendent, along with his gardener. The Trafalgar Mount Cemetery Company began an advertising campaign to highlight the famous tower as a way to sell lots for burial. The ads read, "The extreme natural beauty of the situation, the vast, picturesque, and diversified views it affords, the present, advanced, and artificial improvement of the grounds with clumps of flowers, natural terraces, and winding path to the Trafalgar Tower, peering from the summit of the mount, clothed with luxurious arbors, contribute to render this spot peculiarly adapted to the purposes of a cemetery, the existence of which will be at once a source of attraction, usefulness, and celebrity to the metropolis of Canada." The first and possibly only burial in Trafalgar Mount Cemetery was that of a New York civil engineer named W.R. Casey. He died on Saturday, August 8, 1846. A railroad engineer, W.R. Casey was in Montreal to plan the city's first railway, a link between the main city and Lachine. Casey had contracted tuberculosis, so he moved from the overcrowded city to the leafy countryside, where the air was clean, with his sister serving as his nurse. At first, he chose to stay at Swords Hotel on Mount Royal's western slope. However, as death approached, he requested to be moved to the nearby Trafalgar Cottage, which he apparently felt was more comfortable. His sister contacted the owner, Superintendent Frederick Matthews, and was surprised to learn that the land had recently been converted into a cemetery. Matthews allowed the dying Casey to stay in the cottage until his death, when he was buried at a beautiful site at the ascent of the Trafalgar Tower, shaded by a grove of young trees. Whether or not Casey was the only burial is a matter of speculation. One source suggests up to 8 more bodies may have been buried in the fledgling Mount Trafalgar Cemetery. However, it was not long until the enterprise folded, after Protestant officials decided on an alternate burial location. Just to the east of the Catholic Notre-Dame-de-Neige Cemetery, the Mount Royal Cemetery was opened in 1852. While nobody knows the exact location of Casey's grave, there are rumors that today local residents sometimes dig up human bones in their gardens. In 1848, Furness built a grand Tudor-style summer residence on a piece of land he had reserved for himself on Côte de Neige Road. Keeping with the tradition set up by John Ogilvy, he named his new home Trafalgar. Other institutions that adopted the famous name include the Trafalgar School for Girls, founded in 1887, and the luxurious Trafalgar Apartments, built in 1931. The mysterious phantom footsteps in the vicinity of the old Trafalgar Tower are perhaps the most well-documented hauntings in Montreal. While first documented by John Ogilvy, many other prominent Montreal citizens would go on to report hearing the strange disembodied footfalls. Around 1880, John William Molson recalled that the Trafalgar Tower was used as a summer house and lookout for visitors, and that his mother had spent many happy hours there. He noted that both she and Albert Furness had repeatedly mentioned these footsteps. On a wintry morning in 1890, a worthy citizen of Montreal visited the Trafalgar Tower with his wife and young son in tow. As he hoisted himself to peer through the Gothic window and examine the tower's interior, he heard footsteps approaching. His wife heard them as well and urged him to come down to avoid getting in trouble for trespassing. The man, still looking inside the tower, listened as the footsteps approached until they stopped right behind him. He spun around to confront the intruder, but there was no one there. The couple were additionally baffled by the fact that there weren't any footprints in the fresh, crisp snow. During another similar incident in 1925, a curious archivist named Dr. Massicotte, along with others, claimed to have heard the mysterious footsteps at the site of the tower. Again, no footsteps appeared in the snow. One non-paranormal theory about the mysterious footsteps relates to the geography surrounding the tower. Given that the Trafalgar Tower was located on a perch in a valley, some people speculate that the phantom footsteps are nothing more than the echoes of people walking in the surrounding area. Indeed, long-held rumors suggested that John Ogilvy had experimented with exaggerated footsteps in order to produce an echo when strolling near the tower. Apparently, it eventually became John Ogilvy's custom to approach the tower by stomping about in this manner, and after a pause, he would return home. Whatever the case, for well over a century, the Trafalgar Tower frightened and intrigued Montrealers until it finally began to crumble and ultimately collapsed. The last memory of the tower's existence is from 1937, when a student from the nearby Trafalgar School snapped some photographs of its dilapidated remnants. Now ruined, the once infamous tower began to fade from the collective memory of Montreal's citizens. It wouldn't take long before its exact location was also forgotten. Perhaps the best evidence we have now of this location comes from a 1946 letter when Trafalgar school teacher Miss Martha Brown wrote how she was afraid that there was nothing left of the tower. In 1937, one of her pupils had taken a snapshot of what remained, and she went on to state how difficult it was to explain precisely where the tower stood, though she visited it with schoolgirls many times years prior. The best directions she could give were, as you pass from Côte de Neige along the boulevard, Belvedere Avenue is on the right, and the tower used to be easily seen on the elevation just above the boulevard. Today, the 1848 Trafalgar House still stands on Côte de Neige Road, but there is little evidence of where the tower once stood. There is much speculation that it was probably located in what is now a citizen's backyard, on the escarpment somewhere above the boulevard. While we cannot claim that these are absolutely the remains of the Trafalgar Tower, if you are to visit Chemin Trafalgar Heights, there is a spot on the side of the road where you'll see a curved ashlar stone that looks suspiciously like one of the stones in the 1926 photo of the tower. As for the mysterious ghostly footsteps, local residents still report hearing them sometimes. According to one teenage girl who lived most of her life on Belvedere Road, she told our team that the weird sound of footsteps is pretty normal in her neighborhood. You can usually hear the invisible feet walking when it's very quiet and when you are alone, like early in the morning or after sunset. She's heard them many times. When asked her theory about the mystery, the girl explained that she doesn't know. For as long as anyone can remember, residents have just heard and accepted these unusual sounds in the area. Whether the mysterious phantom footsteps are merely the result of a geographical echo or an echo from the past, they have always been a hot topic in the neighborhood. If it is a spirit causing the sounds, nobody is certain as to the identity of the phantom or the reason it haunts the site of the old tower. While some residents believe the ghost is probably John Ogilvy or W.R. Casey, others believe it's related to General Amherst's infamous march that led to the capitulation of Montreal, a sort of paranormal reminder of the military boots on the ground. Whatever the case, the name Trafalgar, which John Ogilvy was so enamored with, still adorns much of the neighborhood. Despite the disappearance of the infamous Trafalgar Tower, Ogilvy would have been satisfied that the famous British name still appears as a street in the home built by Albert Furness, in a private school, and even in a luxury apartment complex. And whether the area is actually haunted or not is perhaps one of Montreal's most enduring legends. Are you a Montreal resident or perhaps a tourist who has experienced something strange in this neighborhood? Do you have further evidence regarding the location of the tower? If so, we'd love to know. We want to hear your theories about what's going on. Thank you so much for stopping by. If it's your first video, I hope you'll stick around with us for the next one. We post videos in both French and English every Saturday. If you'd like to learn more about the organization founded by Donovan King, it's all listed in the description down below. Remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. We'll have a new video out next Saturday, but until then, stay spooky.